Du så varmt velkommen til å ta del i en ny episode av Oppdagelsesreisen rundt Torinokledet. Og Erik Jensen, jeg må si, av flere av de du har hatt inne, av dine gjester, som du har møtt i USA, har norske aner. Denne her har også en ane, men han ikke norsk.
Nei, jeg må bare beklage, men han har svenske aner.
Men for en kar!
Han har tatt en sånn gentest, og der det 99% svensk. Men nei, han veldig ålreit. Ja, for en type. For en type.
Og bakgrunnen og det hele. Fortell oss litt hva de skal få ta del i.
Vi var en annen, Randy Altegg, han hadde jo da kontakt med Hollywood. Denne mannen har enda mer inne der. Sånn. Han har vært med på noen og 80 produksjoner i Hollywood. Blant annet The Passion of the Christ. Der, hvis du husker coveret med Jesus som står med tornekroner der sånn.
Riktig.
Det Jason sitt produkt. Det han som har laget det. Han har vært med på Chronicles of Narnia, Ben Hur og flere andre. Og også nå inne på den siste opptaket til Mel Gibson, som Resurrection. Det kommer 2 filmer som handler om Jesu oppstandelse, og der dette med Torinokledet ikke uvesentlig. Nei, fenomenal type. Veldig, veldig spennende. Han sier ikke så mye, kanskje noe, men han da i en menighet som nå heter Christ Cathedral. Tidligere het det Crystal Cathedral. Det var der Robert Schuller holdt på 80-tallet, 90-tallet. Altså en fenomenal bygning i Los Angeles, like i nærheten av Disney. Og så var det en sånn, dessverre litt sånn her vanskelig fase når neste generasjon tok over, som det av og til Det endte med at den katolske kirken kjøpte dette bygget, så derfor heter det nå Christ Cathedral. Men det de gjør, og fordi at de har Jason Pearson da som en av lederne, de lager nå et oppdagelsessenter. Som har all den teknologien som du kan bare drømme om, altså all den av film og you name it, og alt sammen fokusert rundt Jesu oppstandelse. Jason Pearson kommer da opprinnelig egentlig fra, når det har bakgrunn mer i evangelikal retning, kom fra menigheten til Bill Hybels, Willow Creek, men var alltid fascinert av både det katolske og litt av det liturgiske, og så havnet han da inn i den katolske kirken. Men har jo da det evangeliske, forkynnelsen av oppstandelsen, som ikke så tydelig i den andre tradisjonen, i den katolske, men nå gjør de noe med det. Og nå så lager de dette oppdagelsessenteret rundt oppstandelsen, der du kan da, hvis du i Disney, så kan du da ta turen til dette her som bare kort vei unna, som åpner i november 25. Så han inviterte meg til å komme, men da jeg ute og reiser selv, så i 26 en eller annen gang så skal jeg til USA likevel. Da tenker jeg å skal ta en tur bort der, og så sa han at det kan hende vi får til noen intervjuer med noen spennende personer. For det litt spennende det han jobber med i Hollywood. Jeg spurte han om det, og snakket om den her woke og alt dette her som har kommet av elendighet ifra den siden. Og han sier at nei, det en stor gruppe, og det ser vi skuespillere, kjente skuespillere, helt top notch, som har kommet til tro. Og de forkynner altså veldig tydelig, og sånne sterke påvirkningspersoner inn i miljøet, inn i Hollywood. Veldig spennende opplegg.
Dette gleder vi oss til. Da blir det Erik Jensen i samtale med Jason Pearson.
Da det en glede å ønske velkommen til Torinokledet. Torinokledet, vi her på en konferanse, og i den forbindelsen så møter vi jo mennesker som utrolig spennende. I dag så har jeg strekt strikken litt, jeg har tatt med meg en halvsvenske. Han har faktisk svenske aner, og vi skal si litt om det, men vi unnskylder ham for at han har så mye interessant å fortelle, at dette vel verdt å få med seg. Så med det så vil jeg gjerne introdusere dagens gjest. Jason Pearson. Welcome.
Great to be with you.
Is that how you say your last name, Pearson?
Pearson, yeah. We've Americanized it.
Yeah, because there was a Swedish PM.
Yes.
His name was Persson, and that's could be family.
He might be a relative, yeah. We never know.
You never know. Now, the Norwegian audience, they don't know you at all. Married?
Yes.
Yes.
And 5 kids,
5 kids?
started with triplets.
Nice start. Wow.
Our hospital had one of those buy 2, get 1 free deals, and we said, okay, we'll take it.
Oh, that's nice. Have you started grandkids now? You're too young for that.
Not yet.
Not
so
yet.
maybe in the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah. It will come. Jason, you need to give us a little bit of background about yourself. I mean, with the Swedish thing, you have never you were not born in Sweden, you didn't grow up there at all.
No, but definitely our family's from Sweden. I've done the ancestry, and I'm 99% Swedish. We've got other family with the last name Baki who are Norwegians. And
Now I can, yeah, be relieved a little bit.
and they hang a flag outside. So whenever we go over, we take down their flag and we raise up the Swedish flag, and then we go outside and they've already taken it down. So, yeah.
Oh, that's good. This is the good friendliness that we have between ourselves.
Right.
Now, a little bit more about your personal walk with the Lord. Have you always been a believer, or is there a point where you turned, or how was that?
I have been. I feel like I've known Jesus my whole life. My dad was a pastor. He was a Christian camp director. So I grew up in a Christian camp up in Seattle, and I had great role models. You know, these fun counselors, and we'd sit around and sing camp songs. And to me, being a Christian was a blast at that age. You know, so I had great role models. And my grandfather was a Swedish Baptist pastor here in the United States. So
interesting. Yeah, that's really fun. But we're going to switch over now also then to something. How does a guy like you with this Swedish background end up in Hollywood and being so connected? I read from some of the bio, you've designed artwork for David Bowie and some of the other famous music groups that I would know about, but tell me about how that happened.
Yeah, you know, I've kind of been drawn to the art, and I feel like the Lord gave me the gift to be able to be a kind of a visual storyteller, and I knew that from early on. And so I went to art school, a pretty pagan place, not a lot of faith in art school, and that really made my commitment and my relationship with the Lord stronger. And I think if I'd gone maybe to someplace else, it wouldn't have been so strong. But as an artist, I've just kind of felt like the Lord gave me opportunities to kind of tell His story visually. And so when I got out of art school, I went to New York City, and my first job, I kind of thought, wouldn't it be interesting to kind of be a missionary in culture?
Oh, wonderful! I love it. I love it.
I thought I'd go work for MTV. That was the big thing.
That was a big thing in the 80s.
Yeah. And I did do a little bit for MTV, but I worked in the music industry, and I started doing album covers for groups like David Bowie and 9 Inch Nails, and then I started a music magazine there in New York called Blender.
Which is iconic, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
it's now kept in archives in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, so we were kind of the first to do some early digital stuff. This was before the internet. That shows how old I am. But we actually started the magazine on CD-ROM, and we were between MTV and Rolling Stone. MTV was like the building across the street, and Rolling Stone was next door. And so every morning, somebody would go and they'd do an interview at MTV. They'd come to our studio. I would do a video interview, and we'd do photographs and interview them, and then they'd go to Rolling Stone in the afternoon. So it was an interesting time of really kind of figuring out culture, but it was harder to be a missionary in culture than I thought it would be.
Oh, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that we hear testimony from someone who is actually in the culture and who are able to speak to these key people who are famous, and they are kind of part of setting the temperature in the culture for the Western people in particular.
Yeah. So it was fascinating, and we would ask some great questions to people. You know, one of my favorite questions when a rock star would come in is, okay, after you're done and your legacy's done, where do you go? And some of them weren't quite ready for that question.
I believe that.
Yeah. So.
But then you moved into also movie. How did that happen?
my wife and I had triplets, and
Yes. Okay.
and so when you have triplets, there's one awake at all times of the day. So we were awake all the time, and we said we need to live near some family. So we were in San Francisco at that time. We moved down to Los Angeles, where my parents were, about a mile away. And so I had been working kind of technology and media, and I got invited one day. So I kind of started an agency, not sleeping a lot with triplets. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, there's this guy, Mel Gibson." And I said, "I've heard of him. He's making a movie about Jesus."
Oh, yeah.
And he said, "It's very early on. Nobody's really seen this movie yet, but come over and let's go to his office and we're going to preview it. And Mel's going to show it to us." And I'm like, "Okay." And my friend said, "And Jason, why don't you design something and show it to him like a movie poster, and maybe we can do something." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Do we have any photographs or anything?" And he said, "Well, the actor's name is Jim Caviezel. Google him and see if there's anything." I found a photo of Jim Caviezel talking on his iPhone in costume that some paparazzi took on the set, and kind of a side profile. And I took that photograph and I airbrushed out the cell phone, and I threw a logo on it. I mean, pretty quick. I mean, this was like the night before. And I printed it out, and I'm like, this is kind of embarrassing. And we walk in, and my friend says, Mel, Jason's created this for you, and you got to see it." And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm not expecting. I've never worked on any movies before." And I put it on the table, and Mel looks at it, doesn't say much, kind of scratches his head, and says, "I've been working on this for 6 weeks, trying to find the right image to communicate what my vision is." And he says, "This is the first thing I've seen that's done that." And so I was shocked, and it was the first movie I'd worked on. And his buddy said, Mel's producer said, "Can you do everything? We need to get this going." And and that's how I got into the movie industry. I mean, it was totally a God thing that I wasn't expecting.
So tell me, is the cover on the Passion of the Christ, is that your?
Yeah, so I did the profile and developed the logo, and so it's a collaborative process. So I'm one of many, to do it. But yeah.
So you worked with Mel Gibson, but you've been part of 80 plus productions.
Yeah, since that was
Hollywood.
The first film,
Yeah.
and so about 80 films since then, from Chronicles of Narnia to Rocky Balboa with Stallone, who wanted to have a faith element in his movie.
Wow.
To things like Ben-Hur, The Shack, and so there's a group of Christians in Hollywood who feel passionate about creating films that have some meaning to them, that can affect people's lives, and so I've got to be a privilege to be part of that group to say, how do we tell that story?
I am so excited to hear that there's actually a group of Christians within Hollywood that are trying to bring the message in there.
Yeah.
I've heard about several of these names, of course.
Yeah.
But there seems to be an awareness. Is it a rising awareness? Is it a new opening? I mean, it has been woke quite heavily.
Yeah. It kind of changes with the times, and Hollywood is always in a state of disarray. Yes, so from streaming to theater. So it changes, but I feel like there's a group of Christians who, and even in the big studios, who don't always get their voice heard, but are there to make a difference.
You spoke about Mel, and he really made a big difference in your life.
Yeah,
tell me about that.
I wasn't expecting it at all. So I grew up in a mega church in Chicago called Willow Creek, where my dad was on staff there. Mm-hmm. Very contemporary, non-denominational.
We're well familiar with it.
Yeah. And so if you told me that I was considering becoming Catholic, I probably would have laughed and said, But there was a place in our lives where my wife and I, we were looking for a little bit deeper holy experience, and a little more. We appreciated liturgy, and I met Mel, and he talked about Christianity different than anyone I've ever met.
Interesting.
And as an artist, he was very visual, and he kind of walked us through the Passion and how he saw that from a Catholic perspective. And I was kind of, I'd never heard any of this stuff before, and I was shocked. I mean, I was in Christian circles where people talked about this, but. So that had an impact on me, and my wife and I, we joined a homeschool group of 13 families. We were the only Protestant family, and they were Catholic. And we appreciated something in that family. So we became Catholic a couple years later.
Well, I'm impressed by the fact that Mel Gibson had such a profound understanding of Christianity that made such a deep impact. I'm so encouraged to hear this.
Yeah, he's a reader. So
sometimes you would think that these people who are in this industry, they would be a little bit superficial and stuff, but he looks like he's a thinker.
Very down to earth, yeah. And definitely has opinions on conventional religion, but
sure,
he loves Jesus. So
that's reassuring.
Yeah.
Let's bring that one step further, because you are now in formerly Crystal Cathedral, which is now Christ Cathedral. This is the famous building that Robert Schuller built back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
and
Hour of Power.
Hour of Power. All of that was going on from there. But then they shifted out, and the Catholic Church bought the building.
Yes.
And they had to do a lot of restructuring. I was there a couple of years ago to see some of the remodeling they had to do to make it approved according to earthquake regulations and stuff.
That in liturgy, the Catholic Church loves its architecture, so they designed it for that.
But you are there with a completely new and a different purpose. There's something that is happening in the Catholic Church, and particularly in that location.
Yeah. It's holy ground, and I did a couple things with Schuller while he was there, so I know the legacy of that location. And Dr. Schuller was pretty wise. He didn't just build buildings. He actually brought in some amazing architects that changed. That you look at around the world. Philip Johnson, and he's got a cultural center that was designed by a guy named Richard Meyer. And just before he built that, he built the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. So
wow.
So a very much of a forward-thinking architect. So you walk into this cultural center on the campus of what's now Christ Cathedral, and it feels like a museum. So here's a 4-story building that you think you're walking into the Getty Museum in LA, and we haven't used it for the past 7 years. We've held some meetings there, but it hasn't been adequately used. And we're 1 mile away from Disneyland.
Correct.
Disneyland gets 23.5 million people visiting it internationally. So if any of the viewers come to Disneyland, we're less than a mile away from there.
But the reason for going there is not necessarily just Christ Cathedral, but it is the new display that is opening in November this year.
Yeah.
And we are going to spend the rest of our time on this now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And a bunch of us volunteers kind of got placed on our heart this idea of the shroud of sharing the story of the Shroud of Turin. And so we've been working at this. We've got a small Shroud of Turin exhibit that we have at a local retreat center, and 25,000 kids every year come out to this retreat center, and they show up on Fridays with their cell phones, and their cell phones don't work because it's in the middle of the forest. And so they're like, we don't want to be there. And by Saturday, they start warming up, and by Saturday night, they do the shroud presentation where they tell the story of the Shroud of Turin, and they show it to these kids, and it transforms their lives. And it has this deep impact, and you're just sitting in the room with these kids, and they're asking questions. They're saying, how come no one's ever told me about this? And we said, there's such an impact here. We call it a metanoia moment, that we said, how can we bring this to more people? And so the shroud, so they bought the Christ Cathedral, and the bishop said, you can have the second floor to do a shroud museum. And we said, okay, if we're a mile away from Disneyland, we got to do this. We can't just put up a couple banners. So we got to make this interesting. And the Lord we prayed about. I mean, we've been working on it for 3 years. We've prayed about it a lot. We've talked to a lot of people, and we decided to create an immersive environment. So we've created 3 theaters. The first theater, you walk in, 360 degrees projection on the walls and the floor. And before we introduce you to the shroud, we say, people need to know who Jesus is. So we tell 12 short stories of the life of Jesus, from walking on water to transfiguration. So you see you see transformation. And then at the end of that, a stone rolls away in the middle of the room, and the doors open up, and you look into theater 2. And in theater 2, we've built this room like the tomb. So you're walking into the tomb, and it's kind of you just witnessed the crucifixion, so it's kind of a solemn moment. And you walk in kind of quiet, and there we give you a 20-minute documentary about the Shroud of Turin, and stuff that up until a couple of years ago, it's my Protestant. I'd never known, and it's been fascinating to learn about this. So you learn about that. At the end of that, then we take you into a third room, because if it just ends at knowing about the shroud, then you kind of miss the point.
Yeah.
So the point of the shroud is not it's a death cloth, but it's a resurrection cloth.
Yes,
And,
that's so good.
and so we take you into a third room and we tell you about the post-resurrection of Jesus and his time with the disciples and with Mary. And it's like you're walking into a stone church in Jerusalem in the first century, covered with frescoes on the walls. And we said, okay, how can we make this interesting? So the frescoes come alive, and we've done them in the style of Michelangelo and Da Vinci and Caravaggio, and they start to tell you the stories of post-resurrection. And then we tie it in with, okay, well, what does this mean with the shroud? And what does this mean for you if the shroud is real, what does this mean in your life?
And this is called the resurrection through the shroud of Jesus.
Yes, yeah. And we're still debating the title. We may end up with the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
We want to invite as many people as we can, whether you're a scientist or whether you're a devout Christian. We want to make this something that you can come and learn and decide for yourself.
But there's also a center where they can experiment. They can almost like layer by layer go into the
Yes.
Shroud of Turin and
Yeah,
remove
so
the
after-
water stains, burn marks, and you can
Yes.
get quite close to a 3D image of Jesus.
Yeah. So after room 3, you walk into a 5,000 square foot museum with kiosks.
There you go.
And then the shroud, when you look at it, if you look at it, it's confusing. It almost looks like an abstract painting because it's been through fires, it's got burn marks,
Yeah.
It's got blood marks, so it's even water stained, and you say, what am I looking at? So there's a kiosk where you can go and you can go layer by layer. Well, what would it look like if I took away the fire, and what did it look like back in the day? And so we're doing some fun things like that where you can really kind of zoom in and see, I see the crown of thorns. I can see the wound marks on Jesus' head caused by this. And then right to the right is an actual set of crown of thorns, and we found out what kind of thorns they actually had in Jerusalem back then. So we've got replicas. It's a moving thing, and it ends with you being able to sit in front of the shroud and look at all those wounds and say, wow, Jesus, you did all this for me. And the suffering is incredible.
This is going to be an impactful preaching proclamation of the resurrection of Christ. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Unheard of in history. I mean, this is going way, way, way further than anyone else I've been across.
Yeah, we're hoping it has some impact. So that's our prayer. Is we don't want to just tell you about the science of this thing, but we want you to ask some deep questions. Look at the shroud and ask some deep questions.
There seems to be, why would the Catholic Church do this? They've had, it's been in Turin, of course, since way, way, way back, but it's been in the property of the Pope since 1983.
Right.
But there's been nothing except the exhibitions where you can see the actual shroud in Turin, where I've been, by the way, and seen the shroud personally.
Right.
Yeah,
I haven't done that yet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I have one thing. But I talked to TBN, Torinokledet Christian Broadcasting, and they are doing this big production about the resurrection, and particularly Randy's meeting with the Shroud of Turin. Why is the Catholic Church doing this now? Is it because technology allows it, or is there a rising interest in the Catholic Church as well?
I think it's a cultural moment.
Wow.
I think, I did some research before this week on just YouTube, on the number of views I found 9,600 videos on the Shroud of Turin on YouTube. And just one of them has 3.5 million views. So there's a hunger for this in the culture to say, I'm looking for something real. I think the fact we're at a point where you're saying, does science neglect Christianity? And in the Shroud, it's an amazing thing that we say, do what you want. Look at the shroud, put it under a microscope, examine the blood. Is this thing real? Does this thing point to the resurrection or not? And we believe science and faith integrate in the Shroud of Turin.
Absolutely. We're running out of time, but what has the shroud done to you?
For me, it's I had a wise person when I became Catholic. I didn't know anything about the shroud, and I had a very wise friend who, he was smart enough to just throw out a couple things to me. And he said, Jason, you're an artist. He said, do you think the Shroud of Turin is real? And I said, well, I don't know that much about it. He goes, well, look into it. And if you're an artist, how would you have created it? If it's a forgery, how would you have done it? And and the way you would have gone about it, would that stand up? And so that got me intrigued. 26 books later, in fact, my wife would open the mail from Amazon and another Shroud book, you're reading another Shroud book? And I was just fascinated by it. I grew up with some people in Chicago. One of my pastors, a guy named Lee Strobel, who wrote Case for Christ.
Yeah.
And he turned me on to apologetics and asking some of those real questions about, is this religion true? Is Christianity true? Yeah. And the Shroud has that same thing. You can ask it lots of questions and really research it. And so for me, I love the reason part of it. But then when you look at it, it's you realize what Jesus has done for you, and it becomes real. I mean, it's either a man-made object or it's divine and it's supernatural. And if it's supernatural, if it was done in the tomb, that resonates as the resurrection to me.
Absolutely. Jason, we're coming to a close here, and we do have a surprise for the Norwegian audience, because this center that you have described, I saw a video of that, a film of that.
Yes.
And you said that we will now be able to show it to the Norwegian audience.
Yeah, we'd love for them to see it, and we invite you to come out and come to our museum. It opens November 1st, 2025. We're a mile away from Disneyland and Garden Grove, Anaheim, California. Yep. So
it's easy to find on the map, and it's easy to find your way to the Christ Cathedral, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Big glass building, yeah.
Big glass building.
You can't miss it, yeah.
You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. This has been such a blessing to listen to, particularly this side that we don't hear too much about in Christian Norway, the influence in this Hollywood world, and that there are Christians actually working actively in that environment as well, and also using all of the technology that we see at our feet today. I mean, this couldn't happen 5 years ago.
No,
we didn't have the technology.
Yeah, we're seeing unbelievable breakthrough.
And now it's just artificial intelligence and chat GPTs and everything they call it.
Yeah.
It's amazing, the realism of all of these things. So they will have, I mean, really a face-to-face meeting with Jesus, in a sense. I mean, through this exhibition that you're doing.
And with AI, we're able to translate it in multiple languages now. So
of course,
we're opening up with Spanish, Vietnamese, and English, but we'd like to expand it to many more other languages.
So is Jesus going to speak Norwegian in this film?
I love it. Yeah.
Or Swedish?
Swedish first, then we'll go Norwegian.
Yeah. Okay. I bow down to the creators. Jason, been such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being willing to be in this interview.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank you
and
for the opportunity.
all the best. I'm in the U.S. Every year, so next year I'll be in Texas anyway, and that's not too far from LA. So I might pop over. That's going to be in May, and for sure, then it's done.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll take you through.
Because now you're aiming at November this year.
We started putting up walls last week, so we're right in the middle of it. Yeah.
Oh wow. This has got to be interesting. This has got to be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Du, vet du hva? For en festreise å ha Jason her sånn og høre alt det han har å fortelle. Og dette senteret som da er i Los Angeles, det skal da åpne, avhengig av når du ser dette her sånn, men i november 25, da åpner dette senteret. Og det vil være da tilgjengelig. For how long will the center be available?
It's permanent exhibition.
This is permanent?
Yes.
Ja, så det her er ikke noe som bare er en døgnflue. Dette her er faktisk et senter som kommer til å være der som en permanent utstilling. Hvis du er i Disneyland, så kan du da bare gå noen få hundre meter omtrent, så er du da plutselig midt oppi det arbeidet som de har. Du finner en del informasjon det du ikke har fått med deg så langt på torinokledet.no. Der er masse informasjon om Torinokledet, men også en del linker til disse intervjuene som vi har hatt her, sånn, til YouTube, slik at du kan komme inn på dette her.
Even at his birth, he was shrouded in mystery. Angels and shepherds, a blazing star in the sky. But why? But why? A lowly baby in a manger, wrapped in a cloth, and a mighty king who was determined he must die. But why? But why? Who were these wise men who traveled so far, bearing gifts for the baby as they followed that star? Who was this child, and where did he come from? And why? Only his father knew. Sindone, ooh, Sindone, ooh, Sindone. Young man grew stronger in stature and wisdom, studying the word and working with stone. The years flew by and it was time to leave home, so he left alone and began to teach of the kingdom of heaven, sharing his message of forgiveness and love. And when they listened, they all were astounded by the way that he spoke, and they followed him wherever the Spirit led him. But as the crowd grew around him, enemies did too, and they searched for a way to betray him, and they found a way. They betrayed him. Only the Father knew. Sindone, ooh, Sindone, ooh, Sindone. Even in his death, he was shrouded in mystery. Darkness came, the earth shook, and the rocks split apart. And everyone wondered in the depths of their heart as they wrapped him in a cloth and they carried him away and buried him in a tomb and assumed he would stay. But only the Father knew. Sindone, ooh, Sindone, ooh, Sindone. Suddenly in the darkness there shone a great light, not seen since the dawn of creation. And an angel appeared from the tomb to proclaim, he is not here, he is risen. But only his Father knew. Sindone, ooh, Sindone, ooh, Sindone. The babe in the manger came the man on the cross, and the sins of the world were forgiven. And only the Father knew it was worth the great cost. The baby wrapped in holiness became the Savior wrapped in righteousness, and the world would never be the same. This is his face. And Jesus is his name. donate. Ooh, so donate. Ooh.
Tusen takk for at du har fulgt oss i dag, og vi ønsker Herrens rike velsignelse. Takk for i dag.